everybody. Welcome back to Around the Emirates podcast with Sara Mousa, where I speak to guests from across the UAE about topics you want to hear about. Today, I'm joined by special guest Dominique Szymura, who is founder of CityDrinks, a company which focuses on importing and distribution of liquor in Abu Dhabi. Welcome to the show, Dom.
Thanks, Sarah. Nice to be here.
Nice to have you here. That is a long-ass title that I just said. It's really cool that you have a liquor distribution and importing company. Please tell me your story and what inspired you to start this company.
Sure. So I'm 34 years old today. I was born to Polish parents in Germany. I grew up between Monaco and Switzerland. Then I went to study in the States, in Boston, in Bentley University. After my studies, I moved back to Switzerland. I started working at a commodity trading company called Glencore in Zug. So that was a good start. But I quite quickly realized that maybe spending my 20s in Switzerland is wasn't exactly for me, but I had a passion for commodities that sort of started at a relatively young age. When I was 16 years old, I had an internship during the summer in Czech Republic at a coal mining company, right? So I spent 2 weeks at their headquarters in Prague, and then the last week was quite a short one. And the last week they sent me out to the mines, right? So I went down a coal mine 1 kilometer underground. And that was a really crazy experience because you go into this like tiny little elevator and it just like shoots down very, very fast speed, right? And they took me all the way to where they bore. So mines, they have like a central shaft, and then it's like veins that spread from it at different levels. And they, of course, insisted to take me to the deepest one and to bring me to where they were boring the coal, right? So they brought me there. I saw what I had to see. Literally the ground was shaking around me while they were boring the coal, right? So I was like, okay, this is great, but let's keep moving. Get me out of here, basically, right? Then I saw these coking plants that they had. So that's where they put the coal into such furnaces. They heat it up but so at that point, I just saw the scale of it, right? And I'm like, wow, this is something the world needs and runs on, right? It compared to my other internships when I was before, which were more like in banking, right, where you sit behind the desk, you move numbers around, right? But there, I got fascinated by the physical aspect of it, right? So yeah, that's sort of how I decided to start my career in commodities. I went to Glencore, which at the time or up to this day is one of the biggest commodity trading companies in the world. But yeah, it was I just felt that being in this headquarter in the middle of basically farm fields in Switzerland, because I would move billions of dollars of product, but then you stare out the window and I would see like cows grazing out there, so I was like, I need something a bit more more exciting. So I connected with one of my university friends. He is a Saudi national, and basically we came up with the idea to start a venture capital fund in Saudi. So I was like, all right. It was just at the point where I had to renew my contract with Glencore, and I was like, all right, guys, I'm off to Saudi, So that was when I first arrived, let's say, to the region. And yeah, I mean, Saudi back in those days was I would assume very different from what it is today. So that was before women driving, before cinemas, right? Extremely difficult to visit at the time. You needed invitation letters from, you know, multiple different people, bodies. And so while being there, as a European, I did feel like a black sheep, right? Everywhere I would go, because yeah, people just weren't used to seeing European guys around that much, especially young, like myself, wearing a suit. And well, I very quickly transitioned to the thobe, because yeah, you just needed to blend in, right? It was actually the thobe was great because you're so comfortable, and you're basically in your sweatpants, and you're sitting in meetings, and everyone's comfortable, right? So it's nice. So I was there for for about a year. Got to see a bit Jeddah, got to see a little bit Riyadh, and yeah, but you know, I needed some normalcy in my life. So this is where I first got acquainted with Dubai. I would come over for the weekend, and yeah, basically at the check-in desk, I would be like, "All right, guys, please have a bottle of gin waiting for me in my room," because Saudi, you know, alcohol was a big no-no, right? Back in the day, even on the landing card, you would have like a death skull. You know, like importation of alcohol results in the death penalty in Saudi. You know, so that it was quite, you know. So basically, I would come to Dubai just to be like in a more, no, let's say, familiar environment. And yeah, so basically moving from Saudi, I linked up with one of my other friends from university, and he approached me and told me that he managed to get his hands on a mining concession in Brazil, right? It was a diamond mine. So what he needed was someone to trade the rough diamonds for the operation, right? Because one part is the digging it up out of the ground, and the other one, well, you got to monetize it, right? So we looked at the different diamond trading hubs in the world, which were, yeah, Antwerp, Mumbai, or India, and Dubai, right? And for me, the best of both worlds, so to say, was Dubai, because you had the weather. Antwerp, the weather is not really my jam, right? And India, again, culturally too different for me to adapt there. So this is where I set up my first company in Dubai, in the MCC. It was a very, very long process back in the day, especially when you're fresh off the boat here. You don't really know what you're doing. So everything took a lot longer than yeah, it could have. But okay, at least throughout this process, I understood how things work here. While being in Dubai, I then linked up with Reef Trust. So they are in citizenship by investment industries, so the CBI industry. And I found it very, very interesting that, you know, for me, for example, holding a German passport, I never really had visa issues or, you know, restricted freedom of movement, so to say, right? And there I came to the realization that, hey, not everybody is as, let's say, privileged as I am. And yeah, so Dubai was sort of the epicenter of the CBI industry, because a lot of, you know, neighboring countries are here. It's very multicultural, multi-cosmopolitan. So and yeah, people have enough funds, right, in order to be able to afford such solutions. So I joined them. The most, let's say, interesting part of the job here was was really just meeting the people that are looking for these solutions, because these are usually quite accomplished businessmen in their own right. In order to make it through any of these programs, you have to have clear source of funds, no criminal background, etc. So it's like the sort of network that you can build through the CBI industry. That was the most interesting part for me.
Right.
And through the process, you're doing something very personal. You get to know your client, his wife, his children, how, and most importantly, how does he make his money, right? Because they have to declare all of that to you. So it gives you a little bit of an insight behind the curtain, what people are doing, right? As a progression from this, so that was about 2 years ago, 2-3 years ago. I went to Turkey because Turkey has a citizenship by investment program. And I had a couple of my boarding school friends that were there, right? So they see I was just there on a quick business trip, and one of my friends wrote me. He's like, "Hey, Dom, I see on Instagram that you're in Istanbul. Like, a couple of boarding school kids are here. Like, I'm organizing a launch at my new hotel, right?" He had just opened. Well, it was like soft launch of this Six Sense hotel in Istanbul, right? So I knew everybody except the one guy that was sitting in front of me, and the conversation went like, "What do you do?" Oh, he told me he's in real estate. And I'm in citizenship by investment, right? And the Turkish program requires investors to invest in real estate. So yeah, we very quickly understood that there's something we can do together. So I started sending him a couple of clients from our side. So how he was managing, let's say, the process. And at one point he told me, he's like, "Dom," he got to know me also a little bit. He's like, "Please come spend two weeks with me in Istanbul in my company. Like, I want your insights," right? So
Very cool.
I went, I spent the time, and after the 2 weeks, he basically offered me a board seat on his company, and asked me to come and spend a year in Istanbul to basically help level up the company from where it was. I'm usually quite, I would say, not impulsive, but calculated. Like for me, I saw there was an interesting window because Turkey was thinking about increasing the minimum investment amount required per investors, and in citizenship by investment, a potential increase. It's the best marketing tool you have when it comes to selling a program, because it's getting now while it's cheap,
Right.
So you really can capitalize on that. So I moved to Istanbul, where my wife also gave birth to our daughter, right? So we have a lovely daughter, Sophia. She's a year and eight months now. So, but it was a very interesting experience because I, changed industry, so to say, from on the CBI side, you're more selling the program, less so the investment. There it was 100%, let's say, or 90% of it was the investment. So Mars is quite an interesting company because it's not a traditional real estate company. What Mars does is we manage the sales operation of 4 of the largest developers in Istanbul, right? So exclusively. So the customers, Mars clients, are agencies. So we have about like 2,500 agencies that go find the investors, they bring the investors, but then we do the advisory. And that was the gap that needed to be bridged in Turkey, because if an international investor arrives there and doesn't have the, let's say, the appropriate advisor, you're asking somebody to invest 250, 400,000 plus dollars, right? You need the advisor to be able to play the part, right? You can't have a guy roll up in, shorts and flip-flops and expect to gain the trust of a German investor, so to say, right? So that was where I really assisted Mars the most, was just in curating the experience for the investors, right? So okay, now my year went by. During that time, we had BCG, this consulting group that was also in the company helping restructure, and just just to put things in scale, we had about $1.2 billion under management while I was there. So it's already quite a big operation. About 14 projects, about $80 million per project, right? So that was an interesting experience for sure. From a business standpoint, cultural standpoint, but yeah, Turkey is also not for me because the culture there is very deep, right? Like it's very intricate as well. And if you don't speak the language, first of all, you can never really integrate. Like the only way I managed to get around is that I had a driver with me 24/7, and just for the little things, because even though Turkey is a touristic hub, you would be surprised, like no one speaks English. For me, it's pretty crazy, because they need the tourism, and you go to 5-star hotels and people don't speak English. To me,
so
this
crazy.
like a dislocation. Yeah, it's quite odd. So if they fix that, Turkey can really, they just need to implement the English in mandatory in schools, right? Which they don't today. So I finished that year, and yeah, then we basically decided to come back to Dubai, just to, this is where we are most comfortable. This has been sort of our home for, at the time it was 6 years. I've been 8 years here now. So while I was here, I started to talk with different friends, and somehow the alcohol topic started to itch, right? So what happens when I usually try to identify gaps in markets and then build a business around the gap in order to harvest it, right? So I first needed to understand how does it work, right? Of course, I wanted to be in Dubai because this is where it's at, right?
It's Dubai.
In terms of alcohol consumption, it's hard to beat, right? So, but I very quickly came to the realization that at the time, to get licensed here in Dubai was impossible, right? It wasn't on the table, be it for me or anybody else. But while I was already doing this due diligence, I started to put assembling the team, right? Because this is what you need to do for any business. You can't do it alone, right? You need core team, you need highly efficient people, to work with you. You more at see for founders, so to say, like what you need to do is just have a crystal clear vision and get people to execute upon the vision. If the vision from the top is not clear, then everything below doesn't pull in the same direction, right? So I understood that I was not going to open a retail shop. That's not, to me, this is stupid. Like, let's open our shop in between this one and that one. Like where's the edge? No edge. And there's already enough shops out there. So okay, Dubai was not going to happen. So the next best thing was Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi is I got to familiarize myself more with Abu Dhabi. It's day and night with Dubai. Complete different concept behind the city, different demographic, much more family oriented, more calm, relaxed, down to earth, which, let's say, for my type of business is actually much better rather than a touristic place where people go in and out, right? I value I value having longer term customers over people that, you know, come to Dubai for the weekend, buy once, and we never see them again, because we spend marketing money to acquire that customer.
That brand loyalty as
And
well,
it's
yeah.
usually impossible to recover your customer acquisition cost based on one order. I need multiple orders, right? So okay, started to move forward with the incorporation, the licensing process. So yeah, as luckily now through experience, I already have access to, I would say, some of the best lawyers here in the UAE. So having the right legal advisory, is critical for any business, right? Because yeah, if you don't understand the laws, and then down the line you're gonna make mistakes, or it's gonna cost you time and money, right?
Right.
So yeah, we saw the, let's say, the roadmap, how to get licensed. It was a very long process, very costly as well. So getting into the alcohol business is not something you can do with 100,000 dirhams. You need
would you say that was one of your biggest challenges, like the financial elements of like setting it up and having everything in place?
I wouldn't say it was. No, it's just, if you have access to the capital, then you have you can work on opportunities that are possible because of it, right? If you only have 100,000 dirhams to your name, like your possibilities are much more. You cannot basically set up a business as ours with limited capital. Like you could open, you couldn't, that's also the thing. But I will circle back to that and why this was, let's say, possible for me. If I would not have been in this position 10 years ago, right? It's simply because things built up in order to allow this to happen, so to say. The biggest challenge was really, just getting through the process and hoping your assumptions were correct, right? Because before proceeding, there's a lot of financial analysis that you have to do, and it's like looking in a crystal ball, right? Like, you can hit the mark, or you can be totally off on either side. To my crazy surprise is that we literally estimated right on the dot.
Really?
Like what our average order values would be, what this, like, it's actually pretty insane, and we're actually acquiring customer at a faster rate than we had forecast. So
very good. Well done.
Good surprise, right? Yeah. So, but I would say it's really the experience that allowed this to be a success, or the beginning of one. Again, 10 years ago, no, I would have, fumbled a couple of times already. But yeah, so the whole licensing process took about 8 months. And why is it capital intensive? Because to start the licensing process, you need a warehouse. And so basically we had an empty warehouse for which we have to pay money, right? On every month, it's not free. Just to get licensed, right? So then you need to set up your warehouse, air conditioning, security camera systems,
all the logistics of it, yeah.
Ranking, so that's why yeah, again, it's a very capital intensive business in order to get started in.
I hear you.
Yeah. Yeah, and okay, so we took a very different approach from the rest. So I saw most of the people involved in the alcohol business. First of all, like 95% of the companies are operated and run by employees, right? It's very different, you know, if employee-run business or founder-run business, like the whole dynamic of the business is drastically different, right? And we saw that there was a gap to fill when it came to home delivery. So instead of investing money in physical brick and mortar stores, we invested very heavily in logistics. So we are more of a logistical tech company, as I prefer to refer to ourselves, because our real strength is our logistical capabilities. Whether I'm delivering alcohol or any other product, the sort of logistical system that we have in place, that's the value, right? That's the edge that sets us apart miles from the rest, right?
It's really interesting how you
yeah,
kind of how you package this, like talking about the fact that it's a very different type of organization or infrastructure that you're bringing to the community here. So you obviously ticked off not having a brick and mortar, which is something that usually people start off the other way, right? They usually start off with brick and mortar and then go to online sales. And you also shifted from Emirate to Emirate, which is interesting to see how Abu Dhabi works better for you, being a kind of quieter community focused area. So just kind of understanding like the journey of you thinking about your capital, thinking about kind of the clientele that you wanted. It's very inspiring to understand how you were able to kind of maneuver through the different challenges that you witnessed and were able to create something that is so successful. So, and it's just a short period of time, like within a couple of years.
well, yeah, it's I mean, the company's been up and running since November 2023, so we are about to hit 6 months in May, half a year, and yeah, for now everything's going fine. You know, the thing is, you can plan all you want, right? But you can macro plan, yes, but everything that has to go into the micro details, I wouldn't spend too much time on it before you actually get started, because you will see that things end up working very differently. But then along the way you need to pivot and adjust as need be, right? So we're never, let's say, married to one idea. It has to be this way and no other way. I also, you know, make sure that there's a really open culture, so to say, within our company, that anyone, from any one of our drivers, any one of our pickers, to whoever in the company has a voice, right? And if they
I love
think,
that.
if they can contribute and can, because you sometimes, you know, when you're at the top of the mountain, you don't really know what's going on down there. You have some idea, but yeah, it's and so everyone within our company is contributing one way or another to the success, right?
That's so
And
important as well, for it to be kind of
yeah,
based on your people and focus on like people first and hearing your employees out, making sure that their voices are being heard.
absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, we're on a good track now. The focus is really supply chain, so to say. We're so in the short amount of time that we've been operating, we now have the largest beer selection in the Middle East. So it started with
Wow.
the UAE, and we're like, okay, let's double up. Might as well, right? Because the beer category was one of the easiest ones for us to dominate, because brick and mortar stores are limited by physical limitations within the store. Like today, we have about 225 beers, different beers, right? If you wanted to have the same or even half of that in your store, your whole store would be filled with beer cans and bottles, right? So that's the
Wow.
benefit of being online, right? We can really go wide in our offering.
And
We
on
have
that
now
note, I think that we need to pause this conversation. I think you're giving too many secrets away. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
yeah, no, sure.
Definitely want to have
Sometimes when
a
I
more
get going,
conversation with you.
we could be here for hours.
No, honestly, I really appreciate it. I just want to give the audience a taste of the second half of your story when we come back here next week. But thank you so much for giving me your time tonight to explain the kind of basics of how you started your company. And then in our next episode, we'll talk a little bit more about the crazier and more surprising experiences that you had, and then a word of advice that you have for listeners.
Sounds good. Thank you, Sarah. It was a pleasure to be here.